What's up, y'all? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Real Housewives of Atlanta. This is season 16, episode 8. And let me just say this, Greg. All right. Portia is a Debbie Downer and she working my nerves. She's such a buzzkill. Drew is not a victim. I don't think she's being bullied, but Portia's dragging it and Drew's dramatic. Cynthia just there. Okay. Britt Edie needs to get over herself because we tired of you. Kelly, it's a good thing that you and Paris are he's no longer your stylist because what did you have on? like, ma'am. Ma'am. Okay. Shamia, I need you to stop singing. Yeah. But let's get into this review. So y'all know sometimes before we get into the review, we get a little spicy over here. But I decided to do a standalone spicy corner. I'll put the thumbnail on the screen and I'll also put the link to it in the description box below if you would like to know my thoughts about Portia and what she said on Watch What Happens Live. Angela's interview where she somewhat cleans up the whole Charles had a baby on me, Charles didn't have a baby on me, Wendy Williams of it all. I talk about Drew and some tweets. Kelly and her ex-husband trying to Simon Guobadia her, sending out cease and desist to the network and production. And Cynthia and an update about her relationship with Kenya. All right. So if you want to know my thoughts about that, please check out that video. But other than that, let's get into this review. All right, y'all. So the episode opens up and we get this country song with Shamia. Like I said in the intro, I'm tired of Shamia singing. I do not think that Shamia has an ugly singing voice. I actually think it's nice. I was surprised when last Saturday, when I went to go see Sinners, they played her song on the radio and it sounded really good. But Shamia's starting to become obnoxious to me. It feels like she's auditioning, like trying to be like, you guys, you know I can sing. And it's like, girl, shut up at this point. It just leads into the narrative that I already feel about Shamia, that she's a tryhard and that she's corny. She's reminding me of this boy that I went to high school with who he could really sing. He was like a grade below me and he sang in our school choir as well as at his church. And he was always singing. I remember him leaning up against the locker, singing to this one girl that he was trying to get her number, whatever. And after a while, it gets obnoxious. It gets annoying. And I'm starting to get annoyed with Shamia. So I just need her to be quiet. And I think what solidified my feelings is when I saw somebody on Twitter say, Candy was on this show for how many years? And I don't think I was ever annoyed by her singing. And that's the truth. Like, I didn't even like Candy's singing voice. She sounds like Jessie Smollett to me. Now, mind you, Jessie Smollett and Candy have that goatee voice. And certain songs sound good with their voice, but it's not a song that I like. They're not singers that I run to go listen to. They sound better in like groups, but I don't think I was ever annoyed with Candy singing. I really don't. Like, there might have been some times, but like it's not been the way that I feel about Shamia, where I just want her to be quiet. You know what I mean? So I need her to be quiet. So she sings this country song summarizing what happened the night before on their first night for Portia's birthday. And mind you, this birthday trip was boring, and I feel like it's because it wasn't fun enough. Like, there were moments where you could tell that the girls were having a good time, but overall, it doesn't seem like it was a fun time for everybody because Portia was being a Debbie Downer, okay? It was like, okay, girl, we get it. And you had, like, it's just, you're a Debbie Downer, Portia. You're a depressing Betty, all right? So, we then see this scene with Britt and her husband, and it actually seems like the husband cares about her in this moment because he said, I miss you and I love you. I said, oh, I guess you do care about your wife, Mike. All right. So he ends up asking her, how's the trip? Like, are you having a fun time? And she's like, yeah, it's okay. Like, we're having fun. And she was just like, but Angela is getting on my nerves. She was like, Angela kept advocating for Drew. And it's like, girl, why are you doing this? So she ends up saying in her confessional that she feels like she has to keep this wall up with Angela or be on guard because Angela rubbed her the wrong way at the peace brunch. Now, mind you, I do believe initially when Britt went into the peace brunch, she was going there with open arms. But the moment that Kelly told her that, hey, the girls checked up on Kenya, that wall went up because she was expecting them to all rally around her. And when they didn't do it, she freaked out because Angela's question towards Britt was not a disrespectful question. It wasn't shady. It wasn't belittling. And mind you, I know Britt probably feels belittled. She's embarrassed. Like, she's embarrassed. Like, she's like ashamed of what just happened. They saw pictures of her sucking dick, slobbing on the knob like corn on the cob. And so I get her feeling that way. I told y'all I hate being embarrassed. If you want to see me crash out, try to embarrass me or actually embarrass me. Or two, like, if you don't want me to ever rock with you anymore, embarrass me. And I will not. I will treat you like you do not exist. Okay? So I get how she feels, but I just feel like, girl, Angela was just matching your energy. You got nasty, so she got nasty. And it feels as though Britt is only used to people either ignoring her behavior or her immediate family checking her or matching her energy, but the public not doing the same. Most people seem to ignore Britt, but she's not used to these girls giving it to her. Because even with what's going to happen next episode, where Angela said in the preview, you got mouths on that mouth, Britt looks so shocked. Like she wasn't prepared for Angela to say what she said. And I'm just like, well, girl, just stop arguing with the lady. Like, stop beefing with her. Stop trying to get in verbal confrontations with her because you can't handle it. Honestly, the way that Angela is handling Britt is the way that Kenya should have been handling Britt. You should have just been wrapping her up because you clearly can tell she don't know how to act, like argue back and forth with people. She not that quick, okay? All right, y'all. So, Editor Leah here. I realized that I did not talk about Shamia and Gerald. So, Shamia gets a FaceTime call from Gerald. He's at the hospital with their daughter, Shiloh. Unfortunately, the little baby has an ear infection, something that's not uncommon to children. But since Shiloh has so many health complications, it's stressing Shamia out. You hear the little baby screaming, and she starts to get emotional and starts crying. Gerald is trying to tell her, girl, it's okay. We're good. Have fun with your friends. Like, I got this here. We then see Shamia in her confessional talking about how wonderful of a father Gerald is, and she's never felt alone with taking care of the children. And Gerald really wants a son, so she gets emotional saying that she has to give him that. And the truth is, she don't. Like, I get it. It clearly seems like Gerald and Shamia had a plan of how they wanted their family to look. Two girls, one boy. Especially, it seems like the only way that she's able to get pregnant is through IVF. But in all honesty, girl, it seems like mentally Shamia is at her end, and we don't know about Gerald. Okay, he might process his feelings differently, but I feel like it's extremely selfish to have another baby when y'all don't know what Shiloh's life or Shia's life is going to look like. It does seem like this has definitely changed the trajectory of their family planning, and sometimes you just need to reevaluate. I don't think it's wrong for them to want a boy. I know I saw some people kind of cringe at that because we do know that some people will treat their boy sons better than their daughters and vice versa. Okay, but it does seem like these two people just want to complete their family. I just feel as though, wait, what's wrong with waiting? It feels like they're rushing to do all of this, and there's nothing wrong with just waiting. Why can't you wait until Shiloh's like 5 years old and you have a handle on, her doctor's appointments, her physical therapy, whatever she needs, and whatever Shia has going on? By that time, your daughter will probably be like 10 or 8 years old. I just feel like we're rushing, and it doesn't make sense to me. So we then get this scene of Angela and Cynthia. They're sitting out on the porch, and Angela's basically saying how intense last night was. And Cynthia was like, yeah, it was a lot. We see a flashback scene where Britt is telling Angela, like, girl, you are a little theatrical. And Angela's like, theatrical? And Britt's like, yeah, theatrical, mocking her. And I'm like, okay, Cartman, let's not mock people when you sound like a reject from South Park. Let's not do that. Okay. But she was just like, wow, like, I'm not theatrical. And then we also see Portia call her Victimina. And she was like, how am I being a victim? Not Victimina. Now, I will say, Angela, you are being a victim a little bit. Like, I don't know what you thought was going to happen by inviting Drew on this trip, knowing that Portia did not invite her. Portia didn't have her on the Zoom call. So it's like you should have been prepared for some people to have an attitude with you, especially Portia. Okay? Especially her. So it's like you are kind of being a victim, being like, I just can't believe. And it's like, girl, girl, you should have believed it. You should have been prepared for them to have these feelings towards you. Do I feel like they're warranted? Not really, because I feel like Portia's dragging this situation with Drew, but it's like you should have been prepared for them people to have problems with you, girl. So you are kind of being a victim a little bit, a little bit. So then Cynthia tries to say, like, is Drew still on her way? And Angela's like, yeah, she coming. And Cynthia's like, girl, this is like the third or fourth time saying that she should be, you saying that she's coming and she should be here. And Angela's like, no, I think she's really coming because she sent me a text message. So Cynthia's like, okay, girl. So then they start talking about baby daddies. And she was like, baby daddies hit differently. She brings up Leon. And I'm like, Cynthia, your daughter is 25 years old. Because I looked up how old Noelle is. She was born in 1999. It said, Google says she's 25. Like, when's the last time you and Leon really sat down and had a conversation for real about your child? Like, I understand what Cynthia's trying to say, and granted, I do think if anybody that was like Cynthia's friends wanted to work with Leon, like if we're close friends, yeah, tell me you working with my baby daddy. Even if I don't have issues with him, tell me that y'all are working together. I don't want to be blindsided with that information. I get it, but it does seem like Drew has made attempts to talk to Portia about this situation. Dennis has talked to Portia about this situation. So it just feels like Portia don't got nothing going on, and this is why she has a problem. Okay? And at this point, it's stupid. It's stupid and it's dumb, all right? So then Angela ends up saying, no, she understands, but she's also like, I'm a good friend, and I'm not going to allow anybody to come at my friend and I not defend them, I not speak up for them. Now, I do like that Angela is sticking up for Drew, but I hope that Drew is going to be reciprocal with it. Like, I just don't want Angela to get her feelings hurt. You doing all this standing up for Drew, but when Drew got there, Drew basically was like, girl, you brought that on yourself. So if I was you, I would reel it in a little bit, Miss Angela, because it doesn't seem like Drew is really going to have your back the same way you have hers. But I don't think she's wrong for being like, hey, I'm not going to sit here and let people talk bad about you, because I wouldn't want anybody to do that to me. And I would want a friend to step in. You know, that's the type of friend I am. So Cynthia's like, no, I understand. I do. And so they get up and walk into, you know, the house, and Angela in this wig. Angela, next season, I don't want to hear you complaining about this wig. You live in Atlanta, the wig and weave mecca, okay? Like, you can throw a rock and hit a stylist, especially a wig stylist in Atlanta. You do not have to glue them wigs down, ma'am. You don't. You really don't. Like, I have enough, girl, sew in some clips. That's what I always do, because I don't like doing that whole gluing down my wigs, because I don't want my hairline to be messed up, and I already have, like, sensitive skin, and I don't have time to get a rash on the top of my forehead. Like, the only time I've ever glued down a wig is when I was going to the club and we was going to be out. Like, you know, I ain't want no lifting while I was doing what I was doing. But I just feel like, Angela, at this point, girl, sew some clips or get you a glueless wig with a tight cap. Because I'm sick of you talking about, ooh, my wig, my lace. Girl, stop, Angela. Like, we too into the game for you to have these wig problems. Okay? The wig can be thick. It can be thick, but it don't need to be slipping. So the episode continues, and we finally see Drew. She pull up. Cynthia sees her. She hugs her. She tells her, girl, we got 2 events today. You could go whiskey tasting, or you could go do Coyote Ugly with the other girls, you know, learn how to bartend. And so she's like, oh, okay, cool. And so she goes looking for Angela. So Drew finally finds Angela, and Angela's getting her hair and makeup done. Angela's like, girl, I've been through the ringer trying to defend you. Like, the girl's been eating me up. And Drew's like, well, girl, that's your problem. And this is why I said what I said about Angela, like, defending Drew. Because I do feel like, yes, defend your friend, but also do it in moderation. Because if Drew's not going to have your back, then I wouldn't constantly stick up for Drew. You know what I'm saying? So she's like, oh, your room is over there. So Drew sees her room, and she's like, oh my gosh, guys. And I'm like, I don't get why people think the room is so bad. Again, I guess I'm just like, I'm short. The beds look like they're full size. So that's still pretty decent. But I'm just kind of like, well, it's not that deep. But like Angela said, y'all not going to be in there. You're not going to be in there all the time. And also finding out that, like, they were only there in Nashville for 2 days, and you came on the second day and y'all were leaving the third day. I don't even know why Drew was acting like that. Like I said, she be dramatic sometimes. So Angela's like, have you spoken to Portia? And Drew's like, no. And she was like, well, hopefully y'all get an opportunity to talk, you know? So we move on from that scene. Well, before we move on from that scene, Angela, I guess, is asked in her confessional how she feels about Drew being there. And she's like, you know, if I had the opportunity to do it all over again, yeah, I would invite Drew because I don't give. I said, come on, Angela. She said she don't give. Okay. So moving on, we do see this scene of Portia and Shamia talking in the bathroom. Shamia's asking Portia, how do you feel about Drew being there? And she's just like, you know, I just don't want her, like, she's like, I don't have no problem. She was like, at this point, the girl is here. I'm going to be nice. It's whatever. But she was like, that thing calling Angela, she's just like, you pressed me like 50, 11 times about her being here. You gaslighting me and all this stuff. And you trying to play victim, and I don't like that. And I'm like, how does she gaslight you? I'm trying to see how Angela gaslit Portia. Like, maybe y'all can explain that to me down in the comments below. But she was just like, I just don't want to be gaslit. And Shamia's like, yeah, I'm going to tell the girls not to gaslight you. We then see the girls, like, sitting down in the den area waiting for everyone to come. I don't know what the hell Drew had on with that. That looked like a cheap, tacky, frilly mess. And then you can definitely tell that Parrish dressed Britt and Kelly, and it's probably a blessing in disguise that Kelly no longer is friends with Paris. Girl, get you a new stylist because what he had you and Britt in was atrocious. I don't know. Kelly's titties is out, and I'm like, Kelly, it's like maybe 12, maybe 11:30 a.m. Why are the girls out, and why are you wearing that in Nashville? Because it's definitely like the outfit gave me more of like a bohemian vibe, like we down at the beach. Like, girl, I know your titties is sweating. And I'm just like, Kelly, why? And then for Britt, I didn't even know that Britt's butt was out. Like when they walked into the whiskey tasting and you just see, I said, girl. I said, why is your booty out? Just bare booty. Like Paris, I don't understand how Paris and Marlo were friends because Marlo, I will say I only saw Marlo in maybe 2 or 3 outfits that I thought were atrocious. Everything else, I thought Marlo could dress. So seeing that they're friends or maybe he styled her, I don't understand why he can't style the 2 of these women. I don't get it. So they're sitting waiting. We then see Portia come out and Shamia. They hug each other. Actually, I was surprised to see Drew and Portia hug each other. And Portia was being cordial, and then they hop up on. The girls are on the sprinter. Now, mind you, Portia gonna say in her confessional she's not the type of person to throw daggers every time she sees somebody. Girl, you're lying. Okay? You may not throw daggers directly, but you are definitely passive aggressive. The way that you treat Dennis when he doesn't do what you say is very passive aggressive. Very passive aggressive. So I was just like, I don't know why you be lying, lady. I don't get it. So while they're on the sprinter, next thing you know, Shamia gets very emotional. She gets a text from some lady. And mind you, it was a confusing story in the episode, but she fleshed out the scene on the after show. Basically, this was somebody who was a mutual friend between her and her first husband. We were, if you don't remember, Shamia was married before she met Gerald. She was only married for a year back in 2008, and she married this guy. She was really, in love with him, but he was physically abusive. They end up showing flashback to when, Kenya did that DV campaign, that commercial. It featured Cynthia. I think Nene was a part of it too. But I know Cynthia's mom, Shamia, was a part of it. And she just spoke about like her situation, how her and the guy were arguing and he hit her in front of a group of people and hit her so hard she fell out of her red bottoms. And she was so embarrassed because he did it in front of everybody and everyone was staring at them at this party that was going on. So she ended up leaving him. This person, I guess, was like a mutual friend between them because that's what she said on the after show, that this was a friend, people pick sides, and this person reached out to her, 10 plus years later to tell her through this text that she was right about this man and that, she was sorry for not believing her. Because Shamia was like, not a lot of people believed her when things happened. And she started crying and she was like, she thinks it's just a combination of, Shiloh and her being in the hospital and then this. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't really feel anything. I know the scene was meant to give us an extra layer about Shamia, but it was jarring the way that it just happened. Like the editing of the scene was very like clunky. It felt like it came out of nowhere for me. So I was just like, oh, okay. Like, it sucks that you experienced that and I hate that you did, but it didn't really like move me the way that I think the people probably wanted us to be moved by it. So then she was like, well, Cynthia, how is your mom? Because her mom was a part of the PSA and her mom talked about the things that she suffered. And Cynthia was like, no, she's doing fine. But that was also awkward when Shamia pivoted to that. And I did see someone say, well, maybe, because these women don't have close relationships with each other, they're trying to connect with one another. And that's true, but it was still awkward, And then Cynthia ends up saying how, she's just surprised by Shamia. She was like, every time you see Shamia, she's always smiling, laughing, being the life of the party. But you sometimes forget that she has experienced like traumatic things, So we get a new confessional with Cynthia. I hate it. I don't know why Cynthia is coming off so matronly to me. It's just like she just does not really mesh well with these groups of women. Granted, we need her to be like the Switzerland of the group, but it's just like she's giving matron, and I don't like it because I'm just like, Cynthia, like, because I'm thinking about like, Miami's coming back. I think majority of the women, like Alexia, how old is Alexia? Like Adriana is 59. Alexia, I think, is like Alexia from Real Housewives of Miami. 57. And I think Marisol is like, how old is Marisol from Real Housewives of Miami? 58. So they don't give like matronly to me. I don't know. Like, Cynthia, how are women older than you not giving that vibe? Even Karen don't give me that. And this outfit, this suit, what is this business lady realness? I don't like it. I don't like it. So the girls break up. You got Shamia, Kelly, and Portia going to do Coyote Ugly. Then the other women, Cynthia, Britt, Drew, and Angela go do whiskey tasting. I probably would have wanted to do both, like, because I like whiskey. But also Coyote looked like it was more fun. So let's talk about the girls doing Coyote Ugly. So they walk up into the bar. The girls, the bartenders that work there are already dancing and stuff. The black girl, she was so pretty to me. I was like, oh girl, I would have gave you tips because you are pretty. So they're excited. The girls are like, okay, let's have some fun. So they're like, in Coyote Ugly, we got to teach y'all how to take shots. And, coyotes don't have hands, so you got to use your mouth. Girl, the way that Shamia promptly got on all fours to down that drink, I said, Shamia, it's giving freak. Okay, you freaked out, right? So she does it. Then you have Portia licking the shot before she put her whole mouth on the shot glass. And then Kelly does it, and they got to pull Kelly's hair back. And I said, girl, and Kelly's mouth is big. I said, do you got that got 3000? I said, my God, today. So then they started playing like tricks and having a good time. The ladies are showing them how to make shots. And it seems like they're having fun. So while they're sitting there, the bartenders go away, and we have Kelly, Portia, and Britt just talk. No, Kelly, Portia, and Shamia just talking. And I think Kelly is the one that brings up Drew. She was like, "There's all those people yesterday know Drew, are like they like friends with her because they kept asking about her." And what's her name? Portia's like, yeah, most of them are cool with her because we all run in the same circles. And Kelly's like, oh, okay. She says, I was just kind of getting annoyed with them constantly asking about Drew. That's what Portia said. And she was just like, my thing about it is like, I'm being nice, I'm being cordial. Why you got to keep bringing her up? And then she feels like in Portia's mind, she feels like Angela was trying to set Drew up because she brought Drew up at the table. But if you go back, Mayella is the one that asked where Drew was. So then that caused everyone to start talking about the situation. So I don't get where Angela was trying to set Drew up. Like, I don't understand that. Because Portia is like, it was unnecessary to bring Drew up. So then Shamia jumps in by telling this story like to me, slightly incorrectly, where she basically said Angela was like, yo, I have a feeling I've been feeling some kind of way about Drew. And they were like, why would she say that? And she was like, well, she said that when they were on their way to the peace brunch. She said, I feel like Drew was talking trash to Kelly about me. And she said, and I'm trying to figure out like what's going on. So then Shamia's like, so then that's why I'm like, I'm wondering where all of this, like I'm advocating for Drew is coming from when you said you had a problem with her. But then they show a flashback of Angela and Shamia in the car together. And that's not what Angela said. Angela said she heard Kelly had some things to say about her that were a little shady. And she was like, you know, it's whatever. I don't really care what Kelly said about me, but I am more concerned about Drew's reaction to what Kelly has said about me and like, you know, when I'm not there. So I'm like, I get what Shamia was trying to say, but it felt like Shamia was adding extra sauce on it to like help further, you know, add to Portia thinking that Angela is purposely trying to set Drew up. That didn't make any sense to me. So, like, I don't know. So, let's go to the next group. So, the other group has Angela. Again, Angela, what's her name? Drew, Britt, and Cynthia. We find out that Britt's a lightweight because the way that she was leaning on that sprinter, she was going to sleep good that night. And we see Cynthia loves to down some whiskey. So, as they're sitting down at the table, Drew ends up asking them, so what went down the first night? And Angela's like, girl, everybody was coming at me. They had their foot on my neck, you know? And Britt is looking at Angela like, girl, shut up. And Angela was like, yeah, like they were really coming at me. She was like, I invited you because I thought maybe I could help mediate between you and Portia. Because it does seem like Portia and you are really at odds right now, Drew. And it seems like she's really hurt, but y'all used to be good friends. So then Britt chimes in and she was like, honestly, everybody just felt like you were playing the victim, Angela. And Angela's like, victim? Like, how was I being a victim? And Britt is like, girl, you can't act like completely oblivious to why people have issues with you. Like, you invited somebody that wasn't invited. She was like, it's kind of feeling like what happened at the peace brunch. I said, girl, not this peace brunch again, okay? She ends up saying how, you know, I came to that brunch expecting like some type of support, some type of empathy, and y'all didn't have it for me. Y'all were like totally like, y'all disregarded my feelings. And so Angela was like, we weren't disregarding your feelings. It definitely like, you know, it came off that you were entitled. And so Britt is like, I'm entitled to my feelings. So then I like the fact that Drew was like, girl, it's cause and effect. Like, you did what you did. Like, I just think it's weird for Britt to act like it's wrong for them to check up on Kenya when they don't know you. They don't know you. And so Drew ends up saying, like, I felt like us showing up for you was support, you know? So then Britt ends up saying, like, I feel like y'all think what she did and what I did, like, it cancels each other out. And that's what I told y'all. Britt feels like what Kenya did, like it omits what she did. And I love the fact that Drew said, girl, like cause and effect. So then Cynthia chimes in and she's like, you guys can't tell this woman how to feel about this. It's not your pictures of you slobbing on the knob like corn on the cob on display. You know, you can't tell her how to feel. So the next thing you know, Britt start crying. Okay. She's like, you weren't crying for 3 days and upset. Like, you know, like you weren't and nobody was worried about me. I was like, girl. So then Angela ends up saying, you know, missteps were made. She was like, we said those things to each other to hurt each other. And I apologize for that. Drew didn't apologize, and I'm glad she didn't, because what am I apologizing for? Because I laughed at you for saying, girl, you can twirl up on out of here? Like, are you serious? So then Drew ends up saying, you know, I see where you're coming from, and maybe being on this trip, we can move forward. I just think it's crazy for Britt to just expect everybody to like just cast Kenya aside when it's like, girl, what you did, like Drew said, cause and effect. Like they wouldn't have seen your dick sucking pictures if you wouldn't have threatened a lady with a gun. Again, I'm not saying what Kenya did was right, but again, cause and effect, girl. Don't be threatening people with pistols and whips, and maybe nobody would go and dig up pictures of you slobbing on the knob. So the girls get back to the house and we see the scene of Cynthia and Britt talking. Britt is thanking Cynthia for her compassion and helping her speak to Angela and Drew. We then get this scene of Portia talking to Pilar and Dennis, he's watching over her. So everyone's coming down in their outfits. You got Shamia doing the most again when she sees Kelly. Kelly has on like this cow tan kind of cowhide dress, and she's like, I don't know which one I want to milk. I said, Shamia, girl, like I said, you're freaked out. The way you was humping that bed, the way you deep throated that shot glass, now this. I said, calm down. So then here comes Portia in all black, like she going to a funeral, and everyone can tell like the vibe is off. So she killed the vibe because everyone was laughing and giggling, and then here you come. I was like, girl, you're such a buzzkill and a Debbie Downer. Go away from us with this, Apollo. Ugh. So Shamia can tell something is wrong. She's like, girl, this girl dressed in all black. I'm wondering if she got a ski mask. She ends up asking Portia, like, are you okay? And Portia's like, I'm good. So then we see Portia in her confessional, and she's upset because she got a phone call from somebody that's close to her, I guess, and Dennis, that ends up telling her that Dennis did, in fact, film with Drew. And she's like, well, Dennis promised that he wouldn't film with Drew. He actually said he wouldn't do it. And here I see you going back on your word. And she's just like, I'm over it. So she basically says, I'm just disappointed that he chose opportunity over family. And I'm like, why does Portia think Dennis is obligated to do anything for her other than be an active father in her child's life and pay his child support on time? If he in fact is paying child support. I don't know what she wants from that man. After the way that, I will always bring this up, the way that man got jumped by your rabid family in Mexico, and then you screamed for him to be in a Mexican prison while you were doing your Portia Luther King shtick, girl, if I was Dennis, I would never want to be around Portia without supervised visitation, because there is no way you are going to ever think I'm obligated to do a mother thing for you after you and your family jumped me. You better be lucky I'm still nice to you, because the way my attitude is set up, every time we got into a room, it would be hostile. Until I got over the fact that your family did what you did. Girl, you tried to throw plates at that man. You tried to hit him with a boom mic. Your family was ripping his shirt off his body. Like, y'all really assaulted him. And you think he's obligated to care about you in that way or care about your feelings? Girl, go on somewhere. Like I said, his only obligation is to that child. Being an active father and paying his child support if he is on child support. Girl, go on somewhere. So she got a stanky attitude. They go outside. There's this big man coming around talking about, hey girls. I said, oh my gosh. So he ends up teaching them how to line dance more. His name's Blake. More cowboys come out. I was kind of like Drew. I didn't really see eye candy, but it still looked like it was a fun time. The girls learn how to line dance. So then they all sit down to eat dinner. And Kelly's like, Portia, what's wrong? Because there's clearly something wrong. And Portia won't tell anybody what's wrong. She wants people to pry the information from her. Girl, I wouldn't have asked her nothing. So they're sitting down at the table, and someone ends up saying, like, how was whiskey tasting? And Britt is like, it was a really good time. We resolved a lot. And so then Angela ends up saying, you said that sometimes I come off as a victim, Britt, but I don't really see how I come off as a victim. Could you explain why? And Britt was like, so you didn't get what I was saying? She was like, not really. And so she was like, I heard that that's how you and Portia feel about me. So Portia, can you explain to me, you called me Victimina last night. How do you think I'm a victim? And Portia doesn't want to talk about it. She doesn't want to talk about it. She is ignoring Angela. You then have Shamia jumping in saying, she said that you gaslighted her. So then Angela's like, how am I gaslighting? And Portia's just like, I don't want to talk about it. So then next thing you know, you have Britt speaking for Portia saying, well, I just think she feels like, you brought Drew and her and Drew aren't in a good place and she wasn't invited. So then Shamia jumps in. She was like, everybody that was invited was here before Drew got here. So then they end up asking Drew, were you invited? She was like, no. And so Shamia was like, you weren't on the call, were you? She was like, no. She was like, did you get an invite to the call? She was like, no. Because Angela was like, well, maybe I just thought she wasn't on the invite call. And she was like, no, girl. So she was just like, I just want to understand, why is it that big of a deal? I thought we could, everybody could move forward on this trip. And you could tell that Portia really doesn't want to talk about this. She's just looking at Angela not really engaging. And so now Angela is getting irritated. So she brings up the question that Kelly brought up about, so if y'all want to hold me accountable, why we ain't holding Portia accountable about that question? Why you sleep with that lady's husband? Why you take that lady's husband? So then Kelly's like, well, no, we resolved that, so we don't need to go back. But she was like, but did you ever get an answer to it? Because if we act like trying to hold everybody accountable, why we not holding Portia accountable? So then Cynthia's like, okay, we going down the wrong road. Portia, would you like to answer Angela's question? And Portia's like, no, I want Angela to kiss my ass. And so Angela's like, girl, the world can kiss your ass because I'm not doing it. And then Angela says in her confessional, don't nobody want to kiss all that flicks of flat in your ass. I said, oh, okay, Angela, you got that one. And so Portia's like, that's how I feel. And Angela's like, okay, girl, okay, whatever. And so she's just like, this is whatever. So then Drew ends up being like, well, I do want to address the elephant in the room. I wasn't invited, but I did want to give an olive branch. We got a bottle of whiskey for you, and I wanted to extend that to you. So then Drew is like, are you okay with me coming? So then Portia's like, she's straight. And so Drew is like, oh, okay. So she was like, you know what? I'm good. I'm leaving. And they're like, well, Drew, no. She was like, I'm not dealing with this nice, nasty energy. Like, I showed up. I tried to extend an olive branch to you. So, like, I don't understand what the issue is. I tried to address it with you. And she's like, it is what it is. You got Kelly screaming for the fish. She like, where the fish at? I'm like, Kelly, shut up. Shut up. So then Drew ends up being like, I'm about to go because I wasn't even invited. So I'm on my way. Now, I will say Drew was being hella dramatic here because on one hand, I can understand like Portia is being rude towards her, but Portia hasn't been nasty towards you. You weren't invited to the trip. She hugged you in the beginning of the day. Like, just because she's not giving you the response that you want doesn't mean that all of a sudden you could be dramatic and be like, she's being nice, nasty. Like, she told you it's straight. Now, mind you, that's a phrase I use a lot. I'm good. I'm straight. It's fine. But you saying I'm good, I'm straight can be perceived in many different ways. So I have to give Portia that, like, girl, I've been nice to you. So let's not do that. She was like, you've been going behind my back, filming with my baby's fathers, even though I told you I'm not cool with that. So, like, I've been nice. That's all you gonna get out of me. So they're like, Drew, where you going? Where you going? So then Portia is just like, I've said way worse to her and she wants to run away now. It's the dramatics for me. It's the dramatics for me. So everyone's kind of over it at this point. You see Kelly yelling to the, playfully yelling to the chef, like, I've been calling for the fish. Like, where the fish at? Like, what's going on here? And so they giggle about it. And then you see Angela and I think it was Shamia checking on Drew. And Drew was like, I got too much going on to be going back and forth and dealing with somebody and their issues. Like, I came here with good energy and I don't have time for it. I don't have time for it. The dramatics from both Drew and Portia are killing me. So Cynthia going to check up on Portia as she mopes in her room. She complains about feeling like it's a pile on. Like, she really don't got beef with Drew. Her real issues is with Dennis. And the truth of the matter is she's mad that she can't control Dennis. She said on the after show that she just doesn't want to give Dennis a platform to dog her out. But when have we ever seen Dennis dog out Portia, even though he would be well within his rights to do so after what her family did to him in Mexico? When I tell you, if I was Dennis, she would be every whore, skank, slut, and bitch in the book for me. Because, bitch, once you put your hands on me, it's up and it's stuck. Okay? Very, 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 very literally. Okay? Every single day I see you, it's an issue. Okay? But I guess he's trying to do the right thing because they have a child. But it's just a simple fact that it's like the only reason why Portia's angry is because she can't control Dennis. She can't get Drew to acquiesce to her HBIC power. And she's just mad. That's the real issue. You're mad because you can't control the situation. And Cynthia trying to comfort her just felt like a stupid moment because it's like, girl, you can tell that she tripping. She tripping. So they hug because Cynthia says something to her that really encourages her. And so the rest of the night, the other ladies, except for Drew and Angela, outside turning up, throwing ones in the pool, pouring liquor on Portia as she twerks, drinking and having a good time, jumping in the pool and just dancing. So then we find out on the next day that Angela's room was like right where the pool is. And Angela heard them talking about her. So we see this scene of Kelly and Britt laying in the bed together and they both look like they've been through it. And Britt is like, Angela was recording us and Kelly's like, what? And she was like, yeah. She was like, I heard everything you guys said and da 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 da. And so we then get this scene of I know, I think it was Angela in her confessional where she basically says that basically she heard them talking about her. Like she heard them calling her name. They were talking about how she dressed, her hair, everything. And then she heard she heard Portia say she better leave me alone or I'll F her husband or I'll F Charles. And so Angela heard that, stopped recording. She really didn't even have a lot of what was being recorded. And she went outside. Now, I tell her that's pretty ballsy to go outside with a bunch of drunk girls that don't like you and press them about them talking about you. But she went outside immediately. Portia gets up, wraps the towel around her, and walks away. Like she doesn't want to have the conversation. Now, I don't know if she was scared of Angela because Angela is a pretty big lady. She a stallion. But I don't know if Portia was just like, I don't have the capacity to deal with this. But Angela was confronting them for talking about her. So they show us the video footage of that. I guess Portia got embarrassed because of the cameras. And then we hear Shamia, Kelly, and Angela and Portia talk about it. So no, it wasn't Shamia, it was Britt. Britt ends up saying that they were all just talking and gossiping. Shamia ends up saying, and this is what Britt says. Britt says Shamia ends up saying that she sees Charles out with different women every week. So they saying that he be cheating on her. Then, and Britt was like, allegedly, but that's what Shamia said. So then Kelly was like, girl, I just thought we were having fun, spilling tea and making music videos. And then I hear Portia say, she better leave me alone before I F her husband. Portia's in the confessional saying she don't remember anything, trying to blame it on the alcohol, which means you know what you said, bro. You know what you said. Because if you have enough sense to blame it on the alcohol, you know to a certain extent what you said, okay? And so now Angela is heated because, girl, you threatened to F my husband, and I take that seriously with your track record, lady. And I said this in my standalone Spicy Corner video. You can tell that Portia hasn't learned anything from her situation with Simon. Even if Portia felt like she was justified in getting with Simon, the fact that there was a large majority of people saying what you did was foul, it seems as though it would make you self-reflect on your actions and be more careful with your words. And the fact that you feel like it's okay to say, girl, I'll F your husband if you don't leave me alone, is crazy. It's crazy. And honestly, had this been a different show, you would have got popped in the mouth. Like, girl, what? Because I would have took that as a threat. Now, mind you, if he lets her, that's on him. You got to be mad at both of them. But for Portia to just throw that out there and just laugh it off is madness. And it also goes to show, because I also talked about this in the Spicy Corner, how if that was Kenya that said that, because people are still mad at Kenya calling Apollo fine and flirting with him, even though he was flirting with her back. If Kenya would have said that, the girls would have been livid. But like I said on Twitter, it's the perception of them. Portia is looked at as ditzy and dumb, just a cute little damsel in distress. She's just a young girl going through life, even though this lady is 43 years old. Whereas you have Kenya, who is pretty, but she's perceived as being very intelligent and very smart. So people perceive her moves as being more calculated with more thought. So it's seen as being malicious, and she's this evil temptress. But Portia should not get a pass from her behavior. Like, you should have got in the mouth, girl. What you mean you gonna F my husband because you mad at me? So the girls are leaving. Angela ain't got it to do. Like, she does not have it to do. She irritated. She want to get back to Atlanta to tell Charles how she feel. And she pissed off. So then Kelly tries to be like, well, Angela, I just want to see how you're doing. And Angela's like, Kelly, get out my face. Get out my face. And Kelly's like, well, that's how I am all the time. I'm like, Kelly, yeah, get out that lady's face. You was down at the pool talking about her. And one of the girls just said she would F her husband. Get out that lady face. Get out her face. And so as they're leaving, because I think Angela and Drew got into a sprinter together, she basically says they're all puppets. Britt's a puppet, Shamia's a puppet, and Shamia is a puppet, because you can't tell me, you being married to Gerald and you friends with Portia, that you should have checked her about that. And I don't think she called Kelly a puppet, but she just says she tired of everybody. She's like, the cast is full of puppets, and I can't take it. But that's all I got for you guys. As always, remember to be bravely authentic. Remember to drop down in the comments below, share your thoughts, subscribe, and like the video. And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.